All right. This is Figurative Language Lesson number 3. You are completing this lesson if you don't quite feel comfortable enough yet with figurative language, or if you'd just like some extra review. Let's review through notes. To understand figurative language, ask yourself what two things are being compared and how they are similar or alike. Then, form a picture in your mind. Sometimes figurative language helps the reader imagine what the setting or the place where a story happens looks like. In a simile, the word like or as is used to compare two things. In a metaphor, two things are compared directly without clue words. An idiom, a third type of figurative language, is an expression which has a certain meaning in everyday language that is different from what the words in the expression actually mean. Here's an example. Emily worked against the clock. Working against the clock is an everyday expression that doesn't actually mean she's working against the clock. It just means that she's working and time is running out. You can use a graphic organizer to interpret idioms. In the first two boxes, write the idiom and what it is referring to. Then, write the meaning of the idiom in this last box. Here's our think about it. Read the sentence below. What does the narrator mean by could hardly take my eyes off the street? I could hardly take my eyes off the street as my brother Jake and I walked around. So the idiom here is could hardly take my eyes off the street. Now, this doesn't mean that they could only stare at the street, right? It says like they couldn't stop looking at something, right? So it's referring to not being able to look at something else. So not being able to look. Actually, what it's really, when we think about it, not taking our eyes off of it, makes it sound like their eyeballs are like on the street, right? Like I can't take my eyeballs, they're stuck there on this road and I have to like lean over and I have to pick them up because I've lost my eyes, right? That's not what this means though. It means I am not able to stop looking at the street. But I think even that's a little fishy, right? This expression means like my attention was full force. I was nonstop looking at something, right? So my attention was focused on the street. That's what this expression actually means. Let's use a strategy review. This is the visualize strategy. I love this strategy because I'm a very visual learner. When you visualize, you create a picture in your mind of what the author is describing. You look for details that help you create the image. You imagine the story or passage is a movie. Picture the setting, characters, and events. We're going to use this visualize strategy as we complete our next reading. I'll read it to you, but you'll be doing most of this work on your own. Read the passage. Use the notes on the side to help you. Then answer the questions on the next page. Let's see what those notes are. Figurative language. What examples of idioms do you see? Visualize. Imagine that the passage is a movie. What does a setting look like? And again, visualize. Reread the description of Kim's drawing. Can you see the drawing in your mind? All right, here we go. Down to a fine art. A sign that read Annual Chalk Art Festival hung over the street. Already the sidewalk was a museum. One woman was sketching a mountain stream, and a kid not much older than me outlined a butterfly. I could hardly take my eyes off the street as my brother Jake and I walked around. One picture caught my eye. An artist named Kim had sketched on a doorway. I hung back, wanting to take a look at Kim's drawing. Now, I already know that this expression has been gone over. I could hardly take my eyes off the street. But I saw another example of an idiom. One picture caught my eye, right? You're not actually catching somebody's eye like in a glove. This means something different, which makes this an idiom. Keep reading. Come on, Riley, Jake urged. I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. That's an idiom too. I grudgingly followed Jake a few blocks down the street to a food stand selling popcorn and pretzels. The smell of butter and salt hung in the air, making my stomach growl. We each wolfed down a pretzel. Then we headed back towards Kim's drawing. On the way, we heard the notes of a jazz band, soothing as a lullaby, playing against the clamorous chatter of spectators. Ooh, I can really see this happening on the street. I'm visualizing as I'm reading this. When we got back to Kim's drawing, I could not believe my eyes. There in front of me were steps descending into a subway station, except they were drawn in chalk. And emerging from the station was a chalk-drawn robot that looked so real, I thought it was headed right toward me. This picture was going to win the contest, hands down. Boy, there's a lot of figurative language in here. Make sure that you are underlining any similes or examples of metaphor. These are great ways to annotate. So annotate for similes and metaphors. That's as simple as circling them or trying to explain them in the margin, but it's something that you should definitely be doing. Let's move on to the questions for this section. These are multiple choice questions. You will answer these questions on your own, though I'll read you the questions right now. Number 1, why is the sidewalk compared to a museum? Number 2, which phrase is an idiom? Number 3, what does Riley mean when he says they each wolfed down a pretzel? Number 4, we heard the notes of a jazz band, soothing as a lullaby, is best described as... Number 5, in the last sentence, the phrase hands down could be replaced with which word? Okay, these are yours to complete. Good luck. Make sure that you read all of the answer choices. That's very important in figurative language questions, as they are going to try to trick you with answers that sound good, but are not the best. If you've completed this, you've now completed all of your figurative language packet. You are ready to submit this packet to your teacher for review. Congratulations! Go ahead and move on to the next topic.